introduce our speaker today, Leanne Williamson, who was named head volleyball coach on April 9th, 2014, becoming the 9th head coach in program history. A few highlights of her career: all-time career wins leader in South Dakota, second volleyball coach in school history to reach 100 career wins, and has coached 14 All-Summit League honorees. She graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee with a degree in education, completed a master's degree at USD. She and her husband Tyler live in Vermillion with their twin boys Jackson and Logan and their daughter Kinsley. So welcome.
All right, thank you for having me once again. I was walking over with Jaron today and he asked me, have I spoken at the Rotary before? That was a simple answer because I think it's been 5, 6, maybe even 7 years at this point, and it's definitely a fun time for me. Anytime I can come and talk about the program, it's an easy ask. I kind of forgot, she just mentioned that I got the job on April 9th. That was the day before my birthday. So thank God they gave me the job, or that would have been a really bad birthday that next day. I had to count because I kind of lose track of time, but I'm going on year 16 here total, year 11 as head coach. And I have thoroughly enjoyed my time, and I think it's one of those things where the community, the people have made all the difference in the world to me. Relationships make a big difference. It's something that I very much value, and obviously that's a part of our program, but that's also a part of this room and our fans and the people in my neighborhood, and I just think I've been very fortunate to meet so many great people along the way. So anyway, we'll get to this season. So we are going on week 7, which is insane to me just how fast this season has flown. I honestly remember standing here, I remember what I wore last year, you know, when I talked to you. So the last year has gone fast, but these last 6 weeks have flown by. The last 5 of our 6 weekends have been on the road. We had 3 of our 4 preseason tournaments on the road. We had our exhibition on the road at UNI, and then started conference with probably one of the more difficult road trips out at Denver and Oral Roberts, between the flight to Denver, from Denver to Tulsa, and then the drive back up, which took about 10 hours. It's a long trip. So I'm glad we've got a lot of those out of the way. I'm glad we're home this weekend, but we can kind of recap just where we're at right now. We're standing at 10-3. I always joke that I have to look up the record, but it's not a joke, it's serious, because one of the things that I really try to focus on as a coach, and something that I try to instill in our players, is really that focus of going 1-0, of making sure that we're living in the present, that we're not residing in the past or looking too far into the future. We want to make sure that we're really focusing on what we can control, and what we can control is the present. So we are at 10-3 right now, which in a lot of ways I'm extremely happy with. We challenged ourselves with our schedule. So one thing I try to do every time I come, and I have to remember what I talked about previous years, is just bring something new to the group and just make sure that I'm sharing information that maybe you wouldn't normally have. So the schedule is something that kind of came to mind. How do we create our schedule? Michael Rundy, my associate head coach, who's been with me 10 years as well, and I put a lot of time into creating our preseason schedule. Some of it is returns, finding teams that we can go to and that we can then bring back to Vermillion. Like it or not, Vermillion is a tough place to get to for a lot of schools. So it's important for us to find places that are willing to make that return if we do go out to them. So that's a part of it. The other part is we want to challenge ourselves. We want to play good competition. We don't want to roll through preseason and feel like we didn't have those challenges, those obstacles, the failure to make us grow, to help us grow. So we had a 4-year rotating tournament the last few years, which you may remember me talking about in the past. We had Louisville, Missouri, and then Northern Kentucky were the 3 other schools that we played in conjunction with ourselves these past 4 years. We went down to Northern Kentucky to round out that tournament, but Louisville is the number 4 team in the country still right now, so obviously challenged ourselves there. We're able to take a set off of them this year, so people that kind of follow our team may have seen that, and that was a huge step for us, of just being able to consistently play at that level to be able to come away with a win. And one of the things that we talk about in those tough matches or tough games that we go into is we have to give ourselves a chance at the end of the game, right? We're not going to be perfect. Volleyball is a game of play errors. So how can we be kind of neck and neck in the 20s? Because once you get in the 20s, anything can happen. And that's what we did in that set that we beat Louisville. We were there at in the 20s, and we were able to come away with just a few really big defensive plays that allowed us to score on the offensive end, on the back end, and we're able to come away with that win. Now, the fourth set, I will say, didn't go extremely well. I think we woke a sleeping giant at that point in time. But to be able to play with and beat teams of that caliber, you have to play a very clean game. And I was very happy to see that we were able to do that for one set. And we had done some good things in sets 1 and 2 as well, just weren't clean enough to be able to come away with the win. But beat Missouri down there. Missouri was receiving votes in the top 25, so they were just outside of that top 25 poll at that time. It's a very good team. It's a team that's going to win a lot of matches this year. And I think that was a big moment for our team of just what we can accomplish, what we can look like as a team, of just starting to see that potential, which is huge as we go through that preseason. Love coming back home. Love being able to play in our own gym. We hosted our annual tournament back at the SCSC this year again, and it came at a perfect time. We had been on the road for 3 weekends. Being able to come home in that fourth weekend after the first 2 tournaments and the exhibition, I think was the perfect timing for it. And we're able to come away with 3 really good wins against Montana State, UTEP, and Iowa State. And Iowa State was a big one for us. For people who do or don't know Michael, he is from the university, well, he's from Iowa, but he went to the University of Iowa. So for him, beating the Cyclones was a massive deal, and it's something that we've worked a lot. We've played him a lot. Their head coach is awesome and is willing to play us both there and here. So it was great to be able to come away with that win. And again, just another defining moment for this team of just what we're able to accomplish against some really, really good programs. Kind of go back to the schedule. We want to challenge ourselves in some really, really good teams. We want to find some teams that are going to win a lot of matches, but are probably going to be somewhat similar to us. And then depending on the makeup of the team, sometimes we will add in some teams that we feel like maybe we should handle. And for this team, we are young. People that have seen us, we have 3 freshmen right now consistently playing in our lineup. So I think for them to be able to have kind of those mix of teams, which is also going to be similar to what we see in our conference play, all of those opportunities to learn about what we handle well, what we don't handle well, what we're doing well, what we're not doing well, allows us to be the best team that we can be for preseason. So there's a lot that goes into the scheduling, but kind of we try to find teams that are going to be top RPI, higher RPI schools that are going to help us as we continue to move through conference. And at some point in time, we would love the Summit League to be a 2-bid league. Right now, it is just a 1-bid league. And that's something that all of us as coaches within the league would like to obviously make that change and be able to say, I think it was 2019 where we went undefeated during conference and then lost in the Summit League tournament and did not get an automatic bid. We were one of the first 4 out, and we just didn't have a top win. We didn't have a top team win. We had scheduled a couple teams that we felt like were going to be better that year, and they didn't necessarily produce the same way we thought. So we didn't have a top 50 program win, and that affected us. So you look at this year, you have the Missouri. We just have a couple bad losses in there too that I think may affect us. But a lot of things that go into scheduling. A key thing that I'm really proud of our program for doing is learning through losses. I think as coaches, as players, as competitors, we all want to win. I know our fans sometimes walk away, upset that maybe we weren't able to pull out that win. It's one of those things that those losses sometimes do eat at you. They eat as me as a coach at times, but there's so much to learn through losses. And I think it's really important for us as coaches to model that for our players is, hey, we didn't come away with this, but let's make sure that we're taking tidbits from it to make sure it doesn't happen again. All right, so if we think about some of our big wins, Missouri, who I would say was probably one of the bigger wins on our schedule right now, came after a loss to Northern Kentucky. And we got swept against Northern Kentucky. And we felt like that was a team that they're good. They're very good. Their coach said it was probably the best match they've played in 3 years, which in some ways makes me feel a little bit better as a coach. And in some ways, it's like, well, why against us? But we could have folded. we have that young team. We could have not showed up that next day. And I think we learned about what it takes to come into a match focused, engaged, and tenfold prepared to be able to perform. So again, really good win. Came after a loss that we would say wasn't great. Lost to Iowa, and Iowa's obviously a Power 4 team, and they're a good program in some ways. I believe we're the better team. I think we play them 10 times. We probably win 8. I truly do believe that. And again, our team was disappointed. And how many mid-major programs walk away and are disappointed like that after a Power 4 loss? For us, we were, because we felt like we were the better team there. And I love that our program is in that state right now. But again, we got better, went 2-0 over the next 2 days and beat a very good Drake team and a very good St. Louis team. So I think, again, that learning through loss is really important, because ultimately we've got big goals at the end of the season. We're trying to take it step by step, but we've got to make sure that we continue to learn as the season progresses. The Summit League, kind of talk about that a little bit. I feel like going into the Summit League right now, I think our conference is better. Last year we had 4 teams that shared a title of the conference, the regular season conference, and we were a part of that. But I feel like this group as a whole, I think our team is better. I think Omaha is better. I think Denver can be better. I think the North Dakotas are a little bit better in some ways. And that's going to help us, again, as a conference to continue to move forward. So every night we step on the floor from here on out, because all of them are going to be conference matches, it's going to be a battle. And it's going to be something that our team has to be prepared for. But I feel really confident that we will be. This past weekend, started conference, went 2-0. Multiple people mentioned it, so somebody's following along, which is great. We started out at Denver. Denver is a hard place to play. And over my time here, we have had a hard time having success at Denver, whether it's the elevation, whether it's the travel, whether it's the team itself. We always expect a really good battle out of them and between our 2 teams, and we are able to sweep them on their home floor. So 3-0, I think that's the first time we've ever done that in my time here, or with the time that Denver has been in the league. So that was a huge win for us. I did have somebody remind me how many hitting errors we had during that match. And trust me, I knew. We had 19 after set 2. And that is a lot. But the other stat that I think we have to look at too is we scored 75 points. We earned 67 of those points. So whether it was through kills, whether it was through aces, whether it was through blocks, we were contributing to our points. So Denver wasn't making a ton of errors at us, giving us points. We were having to earn a lot of our points. So yes, I remember too that we had a lot of errors, but we also scored a very, very high percentage of our points. And that is something that this team has the ability to do, which in some ways helps us counteract maybe some of those nights that maybe we're not at our best. Maybe we do make some more errors. But the nice thing is, we're making some errors, but we're coming back and scoring points on the back end. So it's something that we are working on. It is something that we will continue to try to clean up as we go. Trust me, I will continue to do that. But at the same time, I love how intentful our team is after losses. And I think that shows, or after errors. And I think that shows a lot of resiliency of this group. And again, we've got some really young people in those positions that are showing that resiliency. Coming up this weekend, we have St. Thomas on Thursday and then Omaha on Saturday. Both matches are going to be a good battle again. St. Thomas right now is 0-2 in the conference, but I really do believe they're a better team than what they were last year. So I don't see them having some of the same errors or problems that they had this past weekend. I think they'll be better against us, but looking forward on being back home. And then Omaha is always a great matchup. So if you can come out, please come out. It's going to be a great battle from start to finish. What makes this team special? So again, 11th year of head coaching, 16th year of being here, and I can honestly say that this is the team that has the most depth that we've ever had. We have had good players, we have had good personnel on our team in the past, but we have so many people on our team that do great things day in and day out that we don't have to rely on maybe 8 or 9 people to get the job done every day. We have other people that we can go to. And I think with that, there's 2 things. One, we feel very comfortable making changes in the middle of a match if somebody is struggling, and we have seen that happen I would say probably in more of the matches than not that we have made some change, and that equates to wins. When you are able to give somebody maybe a breather, give somebody a break who is struggling, and that next person can step up and do some great things, it has absolutely helped us win matches throughout this season. I think the other part of it is you can only imagine how competitive our own gym is. So every single day we are competing at a very, very high level, and we do a lot of intermixed scrimmaging. We don't do a lot of starters over here and non-starters here. We mix them up. Our middles are working with both setters. Our DSs are having to go against the best hitters or vice versa, and it definitely challenges us every day in our own gym, so we are as prepared as we can be going into gameplay. We have a great mix of young and old. Okay, I've mentioned a couple of our freshmen playing. We have 2 freshman middles right now, and that was an area that people were a little concerned about. We had Madison Harms, who was honorable mention All-American last year, who essentially led our team in a lot of categories, and we had Bryn Powman, who blocked a lot of balls for us over these last few years. I think that was a concern for people who didn't know the inner workings of our team or saw us every day, and we've got 4 middles right now that could all be on the floor for us right now. So it's a great problem to have, but we also have an older group of our defensive effort. So defense has always been something that's been pretty good for us. We've got a senior DS, we have a junior libero, we've got a sophomore who's playing DS for us, and then we also have another freshman that comes in occasionally as well. But we have a lot of depth and talent and experience in that position. So it's kind of been able to balance out our younger players with some of our older players, and it's created a really good mix. And then the other thing that really makes them special is their relationships. It sounds cliche to say, but this is probably the closest team I have ever coached. They honestly support each other, trust each other, want what's best for each other. If I get subbed out because I'm not doing well, I am this person's biggest cheerleader. And I think that says a lot about the culture and a lot about the relationships and a lot about the time that they've put in to develop that. So that is something that I know people have seen. People have mentioned it to me of just how close they seem. That is the truth. That is what you see is what we're seeing and hearing and feeling on an everyday basis. So keep looking for that, because I do think you're going to see that if you watch us play. Kind of the 2 new things I wanted to talk about real quick, and then I'll get to questions because you guys always have some really good ones. The TerraFlex flooring. So if anybody's been to the gym, that's our newest addition to our program. It's a specialty volleyball floor that is the best in the world. It is what the Olympics use. It is what the top programs in the country are using. It is what you need to have now to host regionals and the Final Four within volleyball. And the University of South Dakota was able to get that this season. So our players absolutely love it. It transforms the SCSC into a volleyball-only arena when we are in there, and it is absolutely incredible. So if you haven't been out to a game yet, come out, look. I'm sure you're going to see the changes right away, but that was a huge step for our program. The last thing is the absence of the double call now. So if I think about the fans and myself as coaches, when, let's say, a setter kind of botched the set, okay, so we would call that a double, all the fans would erupt. I would probably erupt if it doesn't get called, and they changed it this year where that is no longer a thing unless the ball's going over the net. So our setter is Avery Van Hook. She's been having a tremendous season so far, but even really good setters have issues with contacting the ball occasionally. So she may double it, and as long as it stays on our side and our player touches it to get the ball over the net, there's a no call. All right. It's calmed me down a lot because I don't have to yell at the officials when they're not consistent with their calls. But it's a controversial thing because a lot of people wanted it to stay, a lot of people wanted it to go. But now that I've seen it in action, I think it was the right call. It just keeps the game moving, keeps it a little bit faster. It takes away the judgment calls from the referees. And overall, I think it's been a good thing. But if you come and you don't hear the fans erupting as much, that is why, because it is no longer a call that they're going to make unless the ball is going over the net. So little fun tidbit for you. All right, that's kind of where I'm at. Like I said, home this weekend, but what questions does my favorite group have for me? Yes?
Do any of the other Summit League schools have the Terraplex floor?
Omaha right now is the only other school that has it. And they play in Baxter Arena on top of that, the ice rink. Yep. They put the basketball floor down and then they put the Terraplex on top of it. Ours is definitely nicer though. Yeah.
With the Terraplex, so we went to the Supernova games and they have the automatic line sensors or whatever. Is that something you can have or is that not allowed with NCAA?
We do have the challenge review, but we do not have that technology. That is the highest of the best of the best, extremely expensive. They're looking at bringing it into some of the, like the Final Four, possibly. They used it for, they called it the AVCA Showcase, First Serve Showcase this year. There were 4 teams that played before anyone else did to kind of highlight the sport, get it on TV. It was a great success, great volleyball being played, and they used it there, but that's not necessarily going to be in yet. We would love higher, what's the right word? Resolution cameras, but obviously the higher resolution you get, the more expensive it is. So I will tell you, when we were at Iowa, they got all the challenges right because their cameras are better. At our place, it's a little bit harder sometimes with the small touches because it gets pixelated as you zoom in to try to see maybe fingers moving back where it kind of blends in with the ball at times. So no, we do not have that. I don't see that coming anytime soon, but it is something that I think volleyball is pushing for, of just getting the calls right more often. It just requires the money. Good question.
Did they change from a tipping standpoint of who's making that call from last year to this year?
In terms of like the challenge review?
Yeah, as far as who's making it on the floor, who's making that call?
I mean, any of them can. So both line judges are able to make that call. That's their primary job, is to see the touches and then in and out. The up refs and the down refs can call touches if they see it, but I don't think that one happens as often unless it's on their side. But the small touches they're very hard to see. We kind of joke, Michael always says, I thought it was a touch, so there probably wasn't one. Or, I don't think there was a touch, so there probably was one. He does seem to be wrong a lot, so I don't listen to him. I do not listen to him very often. Yeah?
You said this, and I like the characterization of it being a game of errors.
Yeah.
What error does your team commit that bothers you the most?
Hitting a ball into the net. Because they all play at a pretty high point, somewhere usually between 9'6" and 10 feet. So for them to hit a ball into the net that's at 7'4" just doesn't make sense to me. Now, you don't see it happen very often. We don't do it very often, but those are the ones that probably irk me a little bit more than others. You play up here, don't play down here. Good question.
With the new flooring, have you noticed any changes in the way that they play?
Defensively, I think they're able to actually get to more balls at times. You slide better on that floor. So there's times, you guys may remember, when we would slide, we literally hit and stuck onto that basketball floor, especially early on in the season because it had just been waxed. Now they can take up a lot more space, but that's probably still a small amount. But I think they're more comfortable diving because it feels better. It doesn't hurt as much. Still hurts. Yes?
Do you encourage walk-ons?
Absolutely. So the way our sport works right now is we are a head count sport. So we get 12 full scholarships and we are not able to split those up. So every year we have 12 people on scholarship and full scholarship. Beyond that, we carry usually somewhere between 15 to 18 people. So every year we have at least 3 to possibly 5 to 6 walk-ons every season. And they are a huge part of our program. We don't treat them any differently. They don't have any less opportunities. We've had years where we've had 2 to 3 walk-ons playing consistently. So yes, we recruit them the same way. We go through the process the same way with them. But unfortunately, I'm not able to give money to every single player. Yes.
Do you find that having a winning program, which you've had now since you've been here, has helped in recruiting? And where do you focus your recruiting?
We focus primarily in the Midwest. Nebraska's been huge for us, Iowa, South Dakota, Minnesota. We'll get into Wisconsin a little bit into Colorado, Kansas, Missouri, but Kansas, Missouri, players down there don't tend to know where we are. They think we're like 10 hours away. So when we tell them, hey, we're only 4.5 from you, they're like, oh, really? Then they look it up on Google Maps. So it's kind of fun to kind of see that progression. But I would say our primary zone is the Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, South Dakota, and then a little bit into some of those surrounding states. Does recruiting become a little bit easier with winning? Yes. I mean, people want to be a part of a winning program. They want to win championships. They want to go to the NCAA tournament. But I think beyond that, they want to play for people. They want to play in front of people. And so for us, we get to talk about the winning. We get to talk about what we want to continue to do and what our goals are. But we also get to show off a great experience. And I think that makes a huge difference when people come and are able to see the atmosphere and the people that care and how loud it gets in there. That's a pretty unique thing, and that is definitely something that we sell as well. So winning helps, yes, but to us, it's more than just the winning. It's the full experience that they're going to get as an athlete, but also as a student, and they're extremely supported here. Yes?
Is the transfer portal a thing in volleyball?
It is. We have 2 transfers on our team. Well, we have a couple transfers on our team right now, but the newest are Cheyenne Halady. She's our right side that has been playing for us. If anybody went to the Coyote show on Monday, you'll know exactly who she is. If you haven't, I suggest you look it up on Twitter or Facebook or wherever you can find it, because she is a gem. And then Barrett Power is another one that transferred in the spring for us. She's one of our setters as well. She's come in to serve for us a few times throughout the season. So we do use it, but we use it more as a supplemental aspect than we do to fill a roster. So volleyball isn't quite as prominent in the transfer portal as it is in some of those other sports. Any other questions? Perfect. I didn't go over time. All right. Thank you again for having me. I appreciate it.